what female leadership has had an impact on you, on the world, and like how you see that going forward. So excited to have you on Winning Wednesday.
Okay, so my name's Jacqueline. I just moved to Philadelphia from Michigan. I've been here for about 6 months, working for a tech startup who is really focused on looking at different technologies in the mortgage industry and basically making them better.
Yeah, I love that. And I had seen on your LinkedIn too, you posted that you guys are hiring, and there was like a clip of you talking about how working at a startup, you get to feel your impact a little bit more. Can you break that down a bit? Because most of my colleagues and I, we've never been involved in startups. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a totally different culture. So I previously came from a pretty big company, and you're kind of working towards, what the vision is, but it's very straightforward. This is my job. These are my responsibilities. And I think a startup, it's just a really different environment. It's kind of like an all hands on deck. So you might be hired in as a business analyst specific for technology, but then you end up kind of dipping into a little bit of HR. So you're more on the ground level. You can see your impact happen a little bit faster than in a larger company.
Yeah, it sounds really rewarding. So thank you for sharing that. And we are currently in Women's History Month of 2021. So I'm so excited about that. I was really looking forward to having you on in that regard as well. Just to share with us kind of what that means to you and what female leadership has had an impact on you, on the world, and like how you see that going forward.
Yeah, so women's history is really important to me for many reasons, but I think one of the key things for me is that showing women in power, women in technology, women who are really kind of like driving innovation and standards for like moving things forward in the right direction. I think it just opens up the possibilities, right? Like we have our first VP in the White House right now. So like all of these people in America and in other countries, right? Because sometimes I think we're so segmented to our world, but all these people in the US and other countries, they're like, wow, that's possible for me. And so like, I know I grew up and my dad was an immigrant from Colombia. So I think the dynamic when I was growing up was not necessarily pushing to be like the next VP or the next president. And so I think part of that too is like what was happening in society. So to see women in power in Women's History Month, I just think it's super important for us as women to know like, yes, those positions are open and we will be filling them. And, we're going to bring other people along. And the more diverse that these panels become, it's making for a better future for all of us, especially in the tech industry, like more opinions, more perspective. I just think it's really important to have women's voices heard, and it's a really great thing to celebrate for a whole month.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. No, and that's so beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. Even just your family's journey and how the mindset has shifted from when you first landed here, so to speak, to how you've progressed to this point in your life, and understanding that, that is attainable and you don't need to just be like in the background or kind of like an extra on a set. You can actually be the main character.
Yes, definitely. To be totally transparent, when I first started my first job at an automotive company in their technology department, I was an anomaly, right? I think I was the only woman in my department. I think there was one other woman who was a manager of like tech services, but that was very unique to be the only woman in that department. And it kind of made me feel a little bit like I shouldn't be here. And so and a little bit of that is also like being young and it being your first job. But I can remember, and I feel like we've talked about this, like some defining moments of just, oh, hang on, let me get that for you. Let me help you with that. Just a very much like almost made me feel like I was a little incapable because I was female. And I think now the culture definitely in technology has changed so much. I will say like at my last company, there were so many women and it was a good feeling. You did not feel, like, something here does not fit and it's not, So it's a really interesting dynamic in the startup culture. I think it's a lot better, to be honest. I would tell people, get out there, get that experience in. And, like one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a team leader in the past is like, always apply for the job. What is the worst thing that can happen? Even if you don't feel like you have the experience. I mean, sometimes they are looking to bring in, like a different perspective, and that might be the thing that sets you apart.
I love that. That's great, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. I did want to ask you, stop. I want to ask you also, if you just have in general in life or from the pandemic or anything like that, like a silver lining or positive mantra that's kind of gotten you through difficult times. This tends to be something that is basically an actionable item that the audience could implement right away. And I think they find it really helpful.
Yeah. So for me personally, and I think I've shared this, my personal mantra is no feeling is final. I think that can apply to your personal life. It can apply to your career. Like, things will get hard. If this pandemic has taught us anything, it's how to pivot, right? And so I think in life, in your career, you just have to know that things will pass. And so that would be my mantra, my piece of advice, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. No, that's so good. And I had read that emotions are indicators and not dictators. So we can be in touch with our emotions and, like you said, recognize them for what they are, but not necessarily need to act or react according to them, and understand that they will pass, and we can be independent from that.